Hello. Today in this video, I just kind of want to talk about some of the books that I read for the last round of the BookTube prize, which was the semifinals. I read for fiction group A, and originally I thought I just kind of wanted to do a full video about like my whole ranking and review of all of those books. But then again, I'm also reading for the finals, and three of the books that I read from that group actually advanced to the finals. And I thought I just kind of wanted to delay talking about those advancing books. Perhaps I'll talk about it after the results of the finals come out. So in this video, I'll be only talking about 3 books out of the 6, and those 3 books are the ones not advancing. So those 3 books are going to be Writers and Lovers by Lilly, Things in Jars by Jess, and also Interior Chinatown by Charles Yu. I will sort of just kind of talk about how they are ranked based on the order in which I talk about these books. So yeah, I'm going to talk about them from the bottom of my list all the way to the top of my list. And yeah, starting with the bottom of my list is Writers and Lovers, Lilly. So this book is actually about this woman who is in her late 20s, if I'm not mistaken. Her name is Casey, and she is she's an aspiring writer. At the beginning of this book, we see that she is struggling financially. She's working at I think at a sushi restaurant as a waitress. And at the same time, she's really struggling with this novel that she's working on for many years already. And around her peers have been, published. They have been publishing their own works. And so this kind of makes her feel somewhat insecure about herself. And at the same time, we also discovered that Casey has been going to the doctors and have been kind of like finding out something about her health conditions. And I think the last element is, probably like the major element in this book, as suggested in the title. The last element would be the relationship drama that Casey is kind of she's finding herself in this book. So basically, she is being pursued by 2 different men, which is not really a struggle if you ask me. But anyway, this is a book about a woman's kind of like her effort trying to juggle so many different kinds of things in her life. And you can kind of see this book as kind of like a snippet, a short snippet, or like a short chapter of a moment in a person's life, in this case Casey's life. Overall, I thought that this book, in terms of the content, it's pretty decent. It didn't really wow me in any way. I kind of like the grounded feel of this book, the way that the character just kind of moves on in her life, and also in the plot of this book. It doesn't feel like this is a book that is really plot heavy. So most of the time, things just kind of happen to Casey, and she just kind of react to them, and that's pretty much how it is. The bulk of the action from Casey's side actually happens somewhere near the end of this novel. So for the most part, we just sort of see Casey going along with the flow, and just pretty much kind of like see how things go. My main issue with this novel is that the starting. My main issue is the starting. Basically, the starting kind of feels somewhat meandering to me, and it doesn't really have that really strong of a focus. And I think at least for the first half of this novel, I was not really connecting with the story. I was not really engaged with it, and I just couldn't really see what is the thing that I'm supposed to be seeing in this book. How am I supposed to connect with Casey? You could totally see that Casey is having all of these kinds of troubles and all of this kind of internal turmoil that she has in her in regards to her financial and also career situations, of course. But then it doesn't feel very pointed, and the focus only becomes clearer, I think, after the midpoint of this book. So I thought that the first half of this book was kind of boring and it didn't grab me. And for me, I feel that that is a good recipe for a DNF. Were it not for the book to prize, I would probably have DNF'd this book. And I must say, even after I passed the midpoint and I read all the way until the end, I don't think that it really justified reading this entire book. I just didn't feel much from this book. So at the end, I kind of gave it a 2-star rating. I just didn't really enjoy it very much. So moving up my list is Things in Jars by Jess Kidd. And first of all, I must say that I like this book. So yeah, that's my main feeling about it. So what is this book about? Things in Jars is kind of like a detective story. It takes place in Victorian England, and it's about this female private detective named Bridie. So the main plot of this story is about Bridie being hired by this rich baron to take on the case of finding the baron's missing daughter. And as Bridie continues investigating this case, she realizes that there is something somewhat peculiar and maybe even supernatural about this missing daughter. It seems like there's probably some kind of connection between this daughter and also probably the mermaid lore, and things have been kind of strange regarding the disappearance of this daughter. And then another thing that she found out is that there is something about this missing girl that probably is connected to her own past. So that's kind of interesting, because as we move on with the plot of this story, we also finds out more about Bridie's past. Now, another thing that is kind of interesting that happens in the beginning of this book is that Bridie is able to talk with a ghost, because the person Bridie is able to talk to, well, he's dead. His name is Ruby Doyle, and this ghost is not visible to everyone else. So only Bridie is the person who is able to interact with him, and Bridie just does not know why she's able to do that, why she's able to see him, and she does not know what is the significance of this individual in her life. And this ghost is also kind of like keeping the mystery. He does not really like show why or who he is actually, but later on near the ending of this book we find out who this person is to Bridie. So in terms of like this whole story, how all the elements come together, I would say that it's quite cohesive. It definitely has that element of suspense, and the plot definitely feels like, you know, it drives you forward. There are certain parts where it does feel kind of like a compulsive read, but there are also parts where it feels kind of slow, where we kind of see another character telling a different character a story, kind of like a story within a story moment. But overall, it's pretty nice, and I feel like the transition between different chapters, it really reminds me of the transition that you would see in a TV series between different scenes or different timelines, for example. And so this really reminds me of how this book just makes me feel like it should be adapted to a live action adaptation, maybe a movie or a TV series, because this book just feels very cinematic to me. The setting is just so vivid. It's very vibrant, actually, very colorful. The characters also, they are quite colorful. We can really see what character has what personality, and each of them just have their own like very distinct personalities. It's really clear and very well written. So overall, I gave this book 4 stars. It's a pretty nice book. So if you are interested in reading a kind of like a somewhat cozy Victorian detective mystery novel with a bit of a supernatural slant, this is probably something you could try. And so, going up my list, and also the final book that I'm going to talk about in this video, is Interior Chinatown by Charles Yu. I love this novel. I gave it 5 stars. So I'm going to begin rave mode. Interior Chinatown by Charles Yu, one of the most interesting parts about this novel is definitely the form. So if you have seen other people commenting about this book, other people's reviews about this book, you'll probably know that the form does not take on this kind of conventional prose novel. Instead, the story in this book is written in this form of a movie script, and it is really interesting, not only because the form is not conventional, but it definitely does something to the story. It contributes to a totally different reading experience and also atmosphere. And what I mean by that is how it kind of bends your perception on how the story is actually taking place. So essentially what this story is about, this novel, it's about this guy named Willis Wu. So he is a Chinese American, and he is an actor. But he has not been, he has never landed any kind of like a really big acting job. Usually when it comes to his, the kinds of roles that he does, they are usually like really minor roles, extras, kind of roles where he is in the background. He has never been on a main role. And this is something that he has been struggling with because it kind of relates to how who he is as a Chinese American, as someone who is sort of considered to be invisible in a bigger scale in the society. So this book, it kind of explores how Willis navigates his ambition while at the same time dealing with the kinds of obstacles that he has to go through or endure being a Chinese American actor, and having to do all of these roles that are not very big in order to achieve his ambition of becoming this really big actor. But there is also some kind of a coming of age element in this novel, where he realizes that his ambition of becoming this big actor, or rather his idea of what he should be when he becomes a big actor, is probably not the most realistic way of viewing things. So I really like the way that this story is kind of like a story of someone trying to become more successful, but then realizes that his idea of success is actually molded by the way that he has been living, and also the way that his community, the Chinese American community, has been viewed by others, and it shapes on how he expects success to be. And I like that. It feels kind of, it doesn't feel like a really straightforward kind of a story, but rather it shows like really lovely character development, and I just love it so much. Now, another thing that I really, really love about this, again, going back to the form, the way that this novel is written as sort of like a script, because it's written like a script, you could kind of imagine this whole novel as a movie or a TV series, any way you want. So it kind of, first of all, it kind of makes you think that if this whole story is actually fiction, or is it actually a real thing. But then again, there will be moments in this in the middle of the story, a few moments, where there will be kind of like self-aware moments by different characters, and they would comment on the state of things. They would kind of go out of the script, and things just kind of goes really strange and really absurd. And I just like that part. Basically, when the story becomes kind of surreal and absurd, that is where, I will be completely melted. So, for example, what I mean by that is one of the chapters is actually about Willis acting in a procedural drama, in which the lead actors are actually this white woman and a black man. And of course, in that script about this procedural drama, we see all of the standard things going on in a traditional cop procedural show. The cops investigating a murder, and then they're interviewing the suspects and blah blah blah. And then there will be at one point there will be kind of like a moment when Willis voices out his grievance as a Chinese American actor, or rather background actor, and then the main characters the main actors, the white woman and the black man, comments on that, and there will be this whole discussion on their status as minorities in the US, and it all goes kind of like strays away from what a cop procedural should be. And it feels like, this novel takes on this quality of being really dreamy and very surreal. It's kind of like, it makes you wonder what exactly is going on, but at the same time, you really see what the novel is really trying to tell you, and it still feels coherent. Yeah, that's the beauty of this novel. I just love it so much. So that's my 5 stars, and I'm not going to talk about the other 3 novels because technically I'm reading them. But yeah, just to give you a little bit of clue, Interior Chinatown is not my only 5-star reads in this semi-final. So you'll hear about my potential 5 stars in the video after the final results come out. And I don't know, feel free to guess which of the novels are my 5 stars. So yeah, that's all for this partial review video, and I would love to hear what you think about these novels. And I guess that's it. I'll see you again in a different video. So until then, take care. Thanks for watching, and bye bye.